what could we see different for next season? There was a fair amount of chatter in the online chat about how penalties are handled going into the final match. So there was let's say a fair number of people who were under the opinion of, if you're going into a final match, all penalties should be wiped away. So if Team A goes through the tournament and gets into the finals, but only has 2 penalties, but Team B goes into the tournament and they have 0 penalties, then both teams go into the final match, the final round, with a clean slate with no penalties. I don't like this rule. I don't like that idea, because I feel like it diminishes what other teams would have done. So you're telling me that if my team goes through the entire day of competition and I have accrued 0 penalties, none of my players have done a single thing wrong or been caught doing anything wrong, but then I have to go against a team who's got 3 penalties, and you get DQ'd on the 4th penalty, you get DQ'd from the tournament on the 4th, you're telling me that team comes into my set, into our final match, wiped clean? Well, then we're just going to... So what you're telling me is I can accrue 3 penalties and not worry about it as long as I get to the finals. I'm not a fan of that. I don't think that's good for the tournament image, I don't think that's good for SpeedQB as a brand. Usually, if you're in a tournament-style format, say you look at like maybe jiu-jitsu or wrestling or whatever sport may have you compete in a tournament multiple times in one day, in a single day, you don't see those sports carrying over penalties from match to match to match. Usually what you will see is however many penalties you accrue during a particular match goes away once that match is completed. You could see maybe having... I could see SpeedQB modifying the rules to say if you accrue 2 penalties in one match, you're DQ'd from the tournament. I'd be okay with that. I'm not a huge fan of keeping a day's worth of tournaments, or excuse me, a day's worth of penalties into the final match. That's only weird because no one else really does that. I mean, if we as a community decide that that's what we want to do, well then cool. My opinion is you don't carry penalties throughout the day, but if you accrue 2 penalties in a single match, so a match is what, 3 rounds? Something like that? If you accrue 2 penalties in that one match, you're out. You're done. Your team you're axed. Versus carrying X amount of penalties throughout the span of the day. One thing that I've thought about that at least that interests me, and I would like feedback on this, is would mandating tracer units and tracer BBs have any impact at all on the tournament format or on officiating? There is an argument to say no, it would not, because if you look at kind of the way that N1 was lit up, it makes me wonder how visible or how effective a tracer round would be. I don't know. I have no idea because I wasn't at N1. I'm a fan that saw it on YouTube. What the other side to this is if we mandate tracer units and tracer BBs, at least in like maybe in a tournament final, so like in the national finals and the regional finals, all that stuff. For the big tournaments, if we mandate tracer units and tracer BBs, I think it would be more spectator friendly because you'd be able to see who's shooting what. There's more visuals for a spectator to see what's going on instead of just hearing bangs and then someone just raises a hand and walks away. Does that kind of make... So from a spectator sports perspective, I would like to see that. Could also open up maybe some additional sponsorship opportunities, like maybe KWA wants to also donate all the tracer BBs. Maybe Ace Tech or Tronics wants to donate tracer units to whoever doesn't have them or whatever. Maybe HPA would want to be the tracer BB vendor guy stuff. Yeah, that. I assume most competing players have that stuff already. They mostly play indoor fields. Sometimes they're low lit, no lit kind of game types. I assume if you are a SpeedQB competitor in any field. If it's in Atlanta, if it's in Europe, if it's in LA, I assume you have a tracer unit already because you already have $1,000 gun. So what's $60 at that point?